All right, guys, so JayHawk season has ended, so it's time for our end of the season recap with my favorite halftime co-hosts, Brent Wingham and Anthony D'Annunzio. How are you guys doing today?
Good. It's good to be here. Nice to be on this side of the interview. Thank you for having us.
Yes, of course. I'm always on your guys' show, so I figured why not bring you both here and we'll talk a little JayHawk football. You know, we talked all year about what's going on, but let's sit back and, talk about the season as a whole. 7-4. Did you think we would be sitting here saying a 7-4 season after a 3-8 season?
I don't think so. I think they surprised a lot of people in the fact that they were able to play for at least a share of the conference championship in that last game. I mean, that's pretty impressive after what happened 2 years ago to already be back there.
Yeah.
There's definitely some exciting moments this year that I think we'll all remember. Some of the exciting games that started right at the beginning of the year with Borough and East Allegheny right off the bat. Those were really cool to be a part of and to see. And then as the season progressed, the matchups increased, and you got to see Greensburg Central Catholic, and you got to see Clareton, and back to the playoffs again. That's important.
Yeah, and back to the playoffs, back-to-back years with head coach Thomas Malone now in his sophomore season. It is crazy to watch how much not only the team but him as a head coach has grown. Granted, he has been around the game of football since I think he could walk, but now watching him lead the team, he has taken it from a losing season to now a winning season. What's next?
Well, I think that there is a solid foundation that has been established here over the past 2 years. It's something not only for the football players and the coaches to believe in and to look forward to, but it's also something for the community. I think there was really an increased sense of community this year. I think there was a lot more people that took part, whether they were at the stadium or they were listening to us on the Westmoreland Sports Network or just talk around town. People listen from all over the country. They want to know what's happening with Jeanette football. And when it was down a few years ago, it was sad for everybody. But now there's a sense of some excitement, and it's continuing to come back, and I'm really looking forward to 2024.
Yes, without a doubt. And he's brought, I think you're actually wearing it, the Block J back. What do you think the Block J means for Jeanette?
Oh, I love it because I was a player here at Jeanette back when we had the Block J originally. So I love seeing it come back. Thomas said something to me at the beginning of the season that rings true with me. I live down in the Pittsburgh area. So when I wear my JayHawk stuff around town, people think it's Kansas. But if I'm wearing the Block J, they know that's not Kansas. It's more related to Jeanette. So I like the Block J coming back.
Yeah, so that's a little bit more close to home.
Right.
They did bring it back on the helmet as well, so it's a little bit more unique as well. But overall, we can talk about some players now. Peyton Moulter.
Well, that's where you have to start. He's one of the captains. He's the quarterback. He was so instrumental on the defensive side of the football, and you saw how he led this team. Not only on the field, but also off the field. And when you have a captain of that caliber, you have a special human being. And we saw that from the beginning to the end, and we knew in the playoff game he was pretty injured and pretty hurt, but he did everything he possibly could to stay in that football team. Example.
And he did have a shoulder injury, unsure what degree, but he laid out some hits still with that shoulder injury. I was watching him and I'm like, I know how bad my shoulder hurts sometimes. I don't know how he was able to truck some of those players like that. But I often joked on JayHawkTV this year, he threw the ball, he ran the ball, he intercepted the ball, he fumbled the ball. I was waiting for him to throw the ball and run down and catch the ball. But not to mention, he did do the donating to Lisa Friscarella. He did say he works at Bellaterra. Do you think, how many paychecks do you think went there?
That's it. He's donated quite a bit of his money, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it says something for a high school boy to do that. And it shows a lot of character, and we watched him grow from a backup quarterback to now ready for college, more than likely going to play football in college quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, he may have never even got a chance to play quarterback had what happened to Jeanette not happen.
Mm-hmm.
And here he is, you're the stat girl, so you know better than me, but he's probably close to 3,000 yards in his career, right?
I believe he is.
So, I mean, that's amazing when you think about the fact that he might not have even got a chance to play quarterback.
Not to mention, was it his freshman year he had an ACL injury? And so he missed that whole season, I believe.
Yeah.
So to come back that well, so that's where I wanted to start, because I figured we might as well start big. We want to name Peyton Moultrie MVP for JayHawkTV this year. So with all of our awards, we're gonna just talk about them for a few minutes, and then at the banquet we'll present them with the awards as well. Golden Graphics is going to be making the awards.
Nice.
So they were gracious to donate them. They're just in the process of being made.
I see.
So we'll cut right there for a minute.
Are you a motorcycle enthusiast looking for high quality parts and gear? Look no further than Chicken Strip Cycles. It is an online shop for all of your motorcycle needs. At Chicken Strip Cycles, they understand your passion for the open road. They don't stop at just parts. They also offer a comprehensive range of motorcycle gear. Chicken Strip Cycles is locally owned and operated. Don't settle for anything less than the best. Visit their website today and experience the convenience, quality, and expertise that Chicken Strip Cycle has to offer.
All right, guys, so we're back, and the next part of the game we're going to be talking about is offense. Offensively, we can't, go without talking about Noah Sanders. Of course, we have to talk about the fact that he only played with one hand for most of the season.
Right. You think about that.
Yeah.
When you see it from the stands and from the press box, it's even more impressive.
Yes.
I mean, it's just amazing what he was able to do.
Yes, and he has his size against him, and he had literally one arm, and he still managed to get 102 yards per game. Well, average.
And not only running the football, Julie,
yeah,
also catching it.
Yes, and he was a top defender as well for pass deflections. All around, it was amazing to watch. Often joked with him too that if you watch him in open field, he has 3 speeds. It's fast, faster, and fastest. And if you watched him in the open field, and I'm sure you've got a chance to announce it, you could see him shift gears.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so impressive to see what he did with that cast on his hand. I mean, catching punts with that cast on, catching kickoffs, catching passes. He was not limited at all with that cast on. Just fought through it and wanted to be, the playmaker that he was for his last year in the Jeanette uniform.
Yeah, and I talked to him after one game, and I believe he said it was a thumb that was injured. And if you think about that, a thumb when you're playing football, that had to hurt so many times.
Try to protect the football and be protective of where you're going. And I think what was really impressive to Brent and I was when the Jayhawks really needed some repetition and some solid running, they just handed him the football.
Right around the outside.
Times he just ran with it and took off, and they called his number how many times in a row. And I just, there's a lot of drives that I can look to that he was a huge part of, but going back to that East Allegheny game, they ran the ball 17, 18 times in a row, I think, and he was right there with the football.
Was it the East Allegheny game? The game...
that was just one of them. There was another too.
Yeah, the game that it happened, it slipped my mind, but there was a game that there was 72 unanswered yards on the same exact play to Noah Sanders. It was the game he had 222 yards. That is just amazing to me that, I understand we are playing single A football, and I do hate when people say that because there's competition at every level, but the same exact play, 72 unanswered yards, is amazing to think about.
Yeah, I mean, the defense knew it was coming and they still couldn't stop.
Yeah,
it was impressive.
Yeah, and I think after saying all this, it goes without saying Noah Sanders will be named Offensive Player of the Year for JayHawkTV. So he will be awarded his award at November 18th at Lakeview for the...
JayHawk TV would like to thank AHN Hempfield, the neighborhood hospital, for their sponsorship in this year's season. It's close to home, and that's the great thing about it. It's right on top of the hill. It's open 24/7, and it has emergency care with a short wait, and I know that is crucial for everybody. And it has on-site lab imaging and diagnostics, board-certified emergency medicine physicians, and overnight care. I am truly honored to have them as one of our sponsors.
All right, guys, so we're back. Next is defensively. And man, when's the last time you've seen a true freshman come out like Jace Powell has?
Yeah, it was nice to see.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people excited to see him hit the varsity level after what he was able to do with midgets and you know, throughout the minor leagues, so to speak. And he lived up to the hype. It's not easy to come into their, you know, first time playing a varsity game on a Friday night with those lights on you and still perform. And he did it, especially on the defensive side.
Oh, without a doubt. And when I interviewed him, I, you know, jokingly asked, how many athletes can you name that you're related to? And man, it took him a few minutes, and he's like, I'm sorry if I forgot anyone after that. So the athleticism does run in his blood. However, it seemed like the first 5 defensive plays on every single game, Jace Powell's name was in it. And he did end the year as the top tackler, and he did have a few takeaways. And man, the speed he has as a freshman, what's he going to be as a senior?
Well, what we saw from Jace Powell was his ability to fly to the football consistently, play after play with no hesitation, very aggressive, and I think that was how everybody else carried into that defense. I mean, he really made it work in many different ways.
And you know, there's always room for improvement. You know, he does have a few little things here and there. I do look for him to work a little bit on his footwork. There was a couple of times one-on-one he was lacking a little bit, but even saying that, he's still the leading tackler. And I'm telling you, if there was a Jace Powell fan club, I'd be in it.
And, you know, and he played a couple of different positions too. He would line up at safety sometimes, line up at corner sometimes. That shows that he's a smart kid as well. As a freshman, to be able to do that is pretty impressive as well. So I'm really excited to see what happens with his career over the next few years.
And him and Kamani Brown are cousins, I believe, and they're very close. So I would look for them this offseason to, you know, grow and develop together. And maybe could we have like a Troy Polamalu, Ryan Clark situation in the backfield?
Not bad.
You know, and I look for that to happen. And so it's going to be an interesting.
We talk so much about these kids and how they've played together since even before midgets. And I think there's really something to be said for how much time they spend together, whether it's playing football, basketball, or whatever it might be. Sometimes you just know where your friend is.
Yeah.
And you know who's playing next to you, and you know how they're going to react.
Yeah.
So that means something.
Yeah, without a doubt. And like, you know, you only have 23 kids on this roster, 24 maybe. You kind of become a big family after a while. You know how each other works. And of course, if you have a guy down, that's one less player. So you learn the mechanics. And of course, if you're related and you know you're working, you're right on that.
And you know, one of the things, I mean, playing defensive back, you get some of those Deion Sanders types, maybe Joey Porter Jr. that's a little afraid to come up and hit people. That's not Jace Powell. He's going to come up there and put his head down and get after you, tackling as well, which is nice to see from somebody playing in the secondary.
Yes, I'm excited to see him next year and, you know, just see how he can grow and develop. But without a doubt, this year we're going to name Jace Powell Defensive Player of the Year for JayHawkTV. And again, we will present him with his award at the banquet.
One of the staple restaurants when you think of Jeanette is Ketter's Restaurant and Catering, and we are lucky enough to call them one of JayHawkTV's sponsors. They offer everything from breakfast to brunch to lunch, and they even have a delivery service option. You guys can head on over to South 4th Street and check out Ketter. Just let them know you saw their ad on JayHawkTV and thank them for me.
All right, guys, so, you know, football is a team sport, but individually we have some standouts. And this year, Jeremiah Williamson has really came into his own as a football player. You know, last year we saw him play some good defensive end. This year, did we know he knew how to run a route and catch a football as a tight end?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, he had some fancy footwork there. And he's a boxer now.
Hey, very, very skillful. You use those things that you learn when you're boxing, and you know, we always talk about football players and wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestlers are great football players. I think boxing's right there too.
Yeah, and he was talking on JayHawkTV earlier this season that he said that boxing had helped him with hand placement.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's, like you were saying, it's weird how the crossovers happen. And had that maybe helped with his footwork, but he was pretty clutch this year when we needed him to.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, and Peyton Moulter never really had that tight end position there, and now this year with him, he was clutch on that third down position.
Yeah.
And he has improved beyond belief.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's hard to really put into words what we've seen, because last year he was just a defender. This year, now look at him.
Yeah, and you know, one of the big things, I mean, is in this era of spread out, every offense is spread out. One of the cool things that they did, Coach Malone really loves that double tight end set with Jeremiah on one side, Noah Sunder on the other side, and they got a lot out of that. And Jeremiah Williamson on some of the crossing routes, some of the out routes from that double tight end position. I mean, he caught the ball. He had a lot of field to work with. He made, you know, good use of the open field. He was really, really impressive at tight end this year, and did a lot of defensive end where it might be a little bit undersized for a defensive end, but he gets after it. He gets after the quarterback.
And how many times Brent and I would talk, like, there is Agent Zero, as Brent calls him, in the backfield, and he was there so many times this year.
Yes, and I feel like too, a lot of his stats aren't the black and white stats. He was making his presence known, but of course some of that doesn't show up on our stat sheet. I think without a doubt we can name him the most improved player this year. Of course we won't see him next year, he's going off to college, but it just goes without saying the amount of time he put into bettering himself, and he's even put on some weight and gotten bigger, so let's hope we get some maybe D1, D2 offers for him.
We'd like to thank CASA, court-appointed special advocates, for sponsoring JayHawkTV. CASA of Westmoreland Incorporated is a volunteer-based organization providing a voice in the courts on behalf of abused and neglected children in Westmoreland County. The recommendation of these volunteers assists the courts in determining the child's placement in a safe, permanent, and nurturing home. Feel like being a volunteer? Go ahead and check out their website and fill out an application.
So we do a lot of talking about the seniors and the senior class leaving, but we need to give the underclassmen some love. And you know, it goes without saying that this offensive line that we've talked about time and time again has really come together and worked as a unit. And at the core of that, I think, is Nick Stuchel. Nick Stuchel has played lights out on both sides of the ball, and he's just been a core player all around.
I think coming into this year, maybe we weren't exactly sure what to expect from the offense and defensive line, but Nick Stuchel was right there and such an integral part, and you saw how that offensive line was able to do so well, providing running lanes for everybody, and he was right there making it happen.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you know, who's to say that Noah Sanders would be over 1,000 yards without these guys?
Right.
And he is losing his buddy in Gavin Holmeyer this year, but I think Nick Stuchel is going to be able to step up and fill in Gavin's shoes. It's hard to say what position he will play next year, but I look for him to be our leading tackler next year.
Yeah, for sure. That offensive line as a whole just blew me away this year. When you think about them having, you know, basically 5, maybe 6 true offensive linemen on the team. Those guys couldn't take any breaks all season long, whether in practice or in games. They couldn't be hurt, they couldn't be sick, They couldn't be tired. They needed to be out there on
Yes.
the field. And Nick Stuchel did it both ways, offensively, defensively. I don't think there was a better moment at McKee Stadium this year than when he made a tackle and you hear Tim Carney, the PA announcer, go, Nick Stuchel.
Yes.
Got everybody fired up. So
Yeah.
he had a great year. That line had a great year.
Yes.
He definitely deserves this
And,
award.
you know, he said at one of the games I was talking to him before, he said he doesn't have a backup. So playing both ways, both sides of the ball, that's a lot of football. And he's a big guy.
Oh, that's
You-
some conditioning, that's some preparation,
Yeah, right.
and that's a lot of coaching. You got to be prepared to play this game in single A, playing both ways.
Yeah.
And so you have to be ready to go, and you have to be prepared, and that's what starts now for the next year. So
Yeah.
you prepare yourself for it, and kudos to him for making it happen.
Yes, and you know, that's where I argue with a lot of people. Everyone's like, well, you just play single way football, you don't really have any competition. And you know, I often argue with that yeah, we don't have the numbers, but we have 23 athletes on the team, because you have to have the most athletic guys out there that are actually able to play the full games, because they're 9 times out of 10 playing both ways, you know.
We saw him get banged up a little bit in the California game here to end the season, and you know, me and Anth were talking up in the press box that, you know, what are they going to do? But
Yeah.
here he comes right back on the field after a punt, I think it was, or something like that. He was trotting right back onto the field. When you're in that kind of a situation, in a lot of ways, you're not allowed to get hurt.
Yeah,
and
you
he
just-
didn't let it bother him and just kept pushing through like that whole offensive line really did this year.
Yes, and I think, again, another one that goes without saying is Nick Stuchel will be named Underclassman of the Year for JayHawkTV.
JayHawkTV would like to thank Stellar Precision Components for sponsoring this season. Located in Jeanette, Stellar Precision is a CNC machine shop that uses state-of-the-art technology to provide complex components to the defense and aerospace industry.
All right, guys, so JayHawkTV's Lineman of the Year is going to be Gavin Holmeyer, and it's a little bit different because he didn't play line the whole year, and I think that helps him get Lineman of the Year because he was able to drop back into the linebacker position, and I feel like he was a really crucial part of this team. He's kind of a quiet kid if you ever get a chance to talk to him, but man, is he noisy on the field.
Well, he's another captain,
Yeah.
someone that led by example. He always seemed to be around the football. Whenever there was a fumble or you saw it laying there, like, oh, here comes Gavin Holmeyer coming up with it in his hands.
Right.
So that is, just has a knack for where to go and where to be and knew what to do. He really did.
Yeah, and I feel like what we were just talking about Nick Stuchel, he really helped pull him along, and I feel like that also helped me in choosing him to be Lineman of the Year is his, not only his on the field play, but his off the field leadership as well.
And you know, what you talked about really kind of impressed me, because when you don't have depth, you have to get creative to give your guys a little bit of a breather. And what they did with him on the defensive side of the ball, sometimes he would be along the line, but then sometimes they drop him back into a linebacker spot just so he didn't have to bang as much for a few plays here and there, to get a little bit of a breather. I thought that was really good. And, you know, he put it on every game, offensively, defensively. Number 65 was all over the place. Snapping the football, long snapping, you know, I don't think we had any bad snaps.
No.
You know, punts or kick, you know, extra point attempts all season long. He did great there. That's an unsung part of the game. So definitely a guy that deserves this award.
Oh, without a doubt. And you know, that's actually a really good point, is because you never know that you have a bad long snapper until you do, because you never know how crucial that part of the game is. And, you know, we never had to mention his name and, you know, with the extra points or anything. So that's another crucial part. And snapping the ball is hard too. Because not only do you have to be in the right cadence with your quarterback and kicker, but you have to know when to snap and be ready to be hit right after it. So it's all around, we're just happy to name Gavin Holmeyer offensive and defensive and special teams lineman of the year.
You're really hungry right about now, and you want a really good pizza, but you don't know where to order. Head on down to South 4th Street in Jeanette to Saforno's. Saforno's is a laid-back pizza restaurant that offers both dine-in and takeout options. Saforno's restaurant boasts a cool and relaxed ambience with a delicious and creative menu. And let me tell you, I've had their pizza and it is top notch. They sponsor JayHawkTV. You obviously like JayHawkTV and pizza, so head on down there now.
All right, guys, so defensively, turnovers are a crucial part of the game. And man, Kamani Brown really stepped up this year for the Jayhawks. 3 interceptions this year. He is just so fast and always seems to know where the ball is. Him and Jace Powell were tied, but Kamani, we're going to name him Takeaway Master of the Year because he just, like I said, always seemed to know where that ball was.
Yeah, and he's in the secondary, and I think he's learned so much just from playing last year to this year. Brett and I talked a lot about how much he has improved, even as this year has progressed, and it was noticeable.
Yeah, he's a ball hawk. I mean, if that ball's up there, not a whole lot of teams try to throw the ball too much on them. Greensburg Central Catholic maybe a little bit. Heck, in this last game against California, they didn't throw the ball one time through the whole game. And that's part of the reason, because that defensive backfield was so good, including Kamani. They don't want to test him. He's not the tallest guy in the world, but he's long, he's lengthy, and he's got great jumping ability. So even if he's up against a guy that's taller than him, he's still able to go right there with him. And he just was really impressive there.
Without a doubt. And I think him playing quarterback too really helps him be able to read the quarterback's eyes. So with that athleticism and the quarterback mentality, it's he's bound to get a couple interceptions here and there. And so this is his sophomore year. Going into his junior year, as long as he continues to put on weight, because he's very proud of himself for putting on some weight this year. How good of a safety do you think we're going to have next year?
Well, his versatility is so important. And, the more that he is on that football field, the more that he is going to learn and grow, not only grow mentally, but also grow in stature. So I'm really excited to see what he will bring to the table in 2024.
And I know we're talking about him on the defensive side of the ball here for this award, but I'm an old receiver at heart. And me and Anthony watch a little bit of film to kind of get familiar with the opponent that they're playing against. And we watch a little bit on Jeanette just to see what's going on. And, so I keyed in on seeing him run some routes on the offensive side of the ball. And he is a really good route runner, too, for only being a sophomore. He's not just a guy that tries to blow by people. He's actually trying to run routes to get by people. Does a great job of it. Was great on that side of the ball at the wide receiver spot, but did a real nice job in the secondary.
Yeah, without a doubt. And he did promise me that by his senior year, he's going to be an All-American.
I like it.
So with that being said, Kamani Brown is Takeaway Master of the Year.
Have you ever had a craving for that classic Italian taste that you can't resist? D'Annunzio's Italian restaurant has been serving up delicious flavors to families in Jeanette since 1977. And now they've expanded to Monroeville and Latrobe. And of course, they're proud sponsors of JayHawkTV. At D'Annunzio's, it's not just about the food, it's about the family tradition. Their friendly staff and cozy atmosphere provide a warm and welcoming environment for customers old and new. Come enjoy their flavorful dishes ranging from classic spaghetti and meatballs to their famous D'Annunzio pizza, all made from the freshest ingredients. At D'Annunzio's, it's a family tradition.
2, 1, go.
Every team has that one player that they can, count on no matter what. And for JayHawkTV All-Purpose Player of the Year, we want to name Michael Mason, because it seems that no matter what side of the ball, what down, Michael was there. We needed a first down, and it's 3rd and 1, just let Michael run the ball. We needed a stop on 3rd and 2, we'll say. Michael was there making the tackle. It was so great to watch him, be the poster child for what a Jayhawk football player
Well, you
is.
think about where he was and what he faced a couple of years
Yes.
ago. I mean, he couldn't get an inch.
I know, yes.
This team had so much trouble just trying to run the football, but he hung in there.
Mm-hmm.
He took hits from the left, from the right, but now to see him progress over these past couple of years and find some daylight to
Mhm.
run, and he comes out of the backfield on the screenplay, which they like to use so
Oh,
much.
yeah.
And then on the defensive side of the football, how aggressive he is and how smart. He's just an all-around wonderful football player, and he deserves every accolade that he gets.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's my guy there. I mean, every game we tried to give him as much love
Yeah.
as we could because we remember 2021, and he's the guy that had to run the football when they had guys playing line that maybe really weren't supposed
Yes.
to play line. And as soon as he would get that ball, there'd be a guy in his face. And he just kept coming back for more every week. And it was nice to see him this year get some room, get some touchdowns. Like Ann said, that screen pass was so big. And for some reason, it worked so much better with him than maybe with Noah or some of those other guys. It always just seemed like he had room when he caught that screen. Defensively, from the linebacker spot, was involved in so many tackles. His dad was a longtime police officer here in the city. I think that's where he gets that toughness that
Oh,
he's
yes.
had these last few years. But it's been a lot of fun watching him.
We'd like to thank Saved by Grace Financial for sponsoring JayHawkTV. They are a financial service firm offering income tax, accounting, and investment advisory service. As they continue to share the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ throughout their community and strive to be a beacon of light in this dark and fallen world. So make sure you go see my guy Tony on Main Street in Irwin for all your tax and financial needs. And be sure to tell him that Julie from JayHawkTV sent you.
All right, guys, that does it for this year's award show. I want to thank Brent and Anthony for joining us. And of course, we will be back next year, and hopefully we'll be talking a little bit deeper into the playoffs next year.